why? Because if the students are here at this time, they will not have classes at 2 hours.
Okay.
Because they usually have classes in blocks in blocks of 2 hours.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this activity called Pedagogía en Inglés Presenta, organized by the English Teacher Education Program, Universidad de la Frontera, with the support of the School of Pedagogy and the Faculty of Education, Social Sciences, and Humanities. This is one more talk about different English-speaking countries, or countries where English is used for communication in different aspects of life. The general purpose of doing this cycle of talks is to give school and university students and teachers the opportunity to widen their knowledge about the English language and its relevance in the global world. And very important, to provide an instance in which you can hear and interact with native speakers of English. We want to thank all the students and teachers who are participating with us in person here, as well as the students and teachers who are connected through the online connection. First, we will have a presentation by a native speaker, and then we will have some time for questions and comments. So if you are participating online, we invite you to write your questions on the chat. On this occasion, we are pleased to introduce Sophie Beggett, who is from Minneapolis, Minnesota, US. The name of her talk is The Fulbright Program, Education in the US and the Regions of the US, Sophie's Experiences. Sophie is a Fulbright US student working at the Laboratorio de Bioanálisis y Diagnóstico Molecular, en Laboratorio de Investigación en Microbiología Clínica in the Centro de Excelencia en Medicina Translacional to study Helicobacter pylori in La Araucanía region. She is interested in using bioinformatic techniques in clinical and community-engaged research. In this talk, she will speak about her research, the Fulbright Program, her experiences with the US education system, and the geographic and cultural diversity among regions of the United States. Let's receive her with a round of applause.
Thank you, Catalina. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to Javi for inviting me to do this talk, and to the profesores for setting up and making everything happen. As a quick disclaimer up front, as the title of my presentation suggests, this presentation is primarily based on my experiences, so it's not necessarily representative of everyone's experiences of the United States. but I hope to be able to share some and share some interesting things with you today. So, as Catalina mentioned, what I'll be speaking about today is a little bit about my research here, some of the opportunities that the Fulbright program offers for citizens of the United States and of Chile, some notes about the education system in the United States, and notes about the different regions of the United States and some interesting features there. But before I get too much into any of that, I want to share a little bit more background about myself. So, as implied, I am from the United States, and although I did say in my introduction presentation that Catalina so nicely read, that I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota, I'm really from both of these two states here in the box, both Minnesota and Wisconsin, and I'll tell you why. So I was born and raised in La Crosse, Wisconsin, where the heart is here on the western side of Wisconsin. So it's a city of about 52,000 people located on the Mississippi River, which you can see here in this image, and it's surrounded by bluffs, which it's most known for. It has 3 universities and 2 hospitals, and those are the big businesses there. While I was there, I went to Logan High School, which is a public high school of about 700 students. During my time there, I participated in the swim team, the track and field team, and the band. In the band, I played the trumpet. Then I moved across the river to Northfield, Minnesota, which is another river town. Coincidentally, this is the Cannon River, which runs through there. It's about 20,000 people, and it has two universities. I went to Carleton College, was the name of my university. It's a small private liberal arts school, liberal arts meaning that it tries to give general education with a special emphasis on critical thinking and writing skills for all of its students, in addition to allowing them to specialize in an area or areas of study of their choosing. So I specialized with a major in biology and a minor in Spanish. And while I was there, I also participated in the swim team and the water polo club, and I worked at the Center for Community and Civic Engagement for 3 of my 4 years there at the university. And I graduated in June 2023, so just last year. After graduating, I moved to Bloomington, Minnesota. So you'll notice the heart didn't really move that far that time, only about 40 minutes by car away. And Bloomington is a suburb of the city of Minneapolis. So it is a city itself with its own municipal government of about 90,000 people. But for many cultural and commercial things, Minneapolis is the center of where most of the things are located. And the suburbs tend to be more residential. Bloomington does have several important office buildings, however. And what was I doing in Bloomington? I was working at this practice called Minji Digestive Health. So that stands for Minnesota, the state that it's in, GI, gastrointestinal digestive health. So having to do with anything that is with like the digestive tract of the body. And that is a clinic that has about 10 locations in the Twin Cities area where they perform procedures for patients such as colonoscopy and endoscopy, as well as treat them for a variety of acute and chronic gastrointestinal conditions. So while I was working there, I worked at the front desk. I also worked in rooming and discharging patients, doing blood draws, and reviewing procedure preparation instructions with patients, with Spanish-speaking patients. On a personal note, since June, I've had the opportunity to participate in several different runs, as you can see there. All right, so that's where I was from July of last year to March of this year. And just last month, at the beginning of March, I moved down here to Temuco, Chile. I know I don't need to tell you anything about this city. You already know it pretty well. I just wanted to show off this picture because it reminded me a lot of the picture that I showed of La Crosse, right? With the river and then the hills in the background. And so although it wasn't on purpose, I think it's kind of funny how they look alike from a certain angle. All right. So what am I doing here? Gotten this question a lot, and I'll explain. So as we mentioned, I'm here with the Fulbright program. Has anybody heard of the Fulbright program before? Okay, all good. I'll have a whole section on it later. But it is a program funded by the United States government with the primary goal of educational and cultural exchange. And it is not just with Chile, it's with many different, over 150 different countries around the world. But it was started in the United States in 1946, and the Chilean Commission was founded in 1955, which was actually the first commission to be founded in Latin America. And since that time, over 3,000, from this information from their website, over 3,000 Chilean citizens have received scholarships from them to study in the United States, and over 1,000 United States citizens have received scholarships to come here to Chile. And currently they have 11 different programs available. The program that I am specifically a part of is called the Fulbright U.S. Student Program. And this is the biggest program that they have in terms of numbers. It's active in over 150 countries, and on average, they send about 1,500 students on scholarship every year. These are students who, like myself, have graduated in Chile. These are students who have their bachelor's degree or their master's degree, or they're doing research as part of their master's or doctoral degree. Because the goal of this project is to allow students to come for 9 months and do research partnered with a university working on a specific project. So my partner here at the university is the Centro de Excelencia en Medicina Translacional, which is located on Avenida Alemania. So it's not here on the central campus, but it is part of UFRO. And I'm working with 2 labs there. I'm working with Dr. Álvaro Cerda in the Laboratorio de Bioanálisis y Diagnóstico Molecular, y Dra. Mónica Pávez in the Laboratorio de Investigación en Microbiología Clínica. All right, so that kind of explains my partnership here with the university, but what about the specific project that I mentioned that's part of the scholarship? Our specific project is, it's a lot of words, characterize Helicobacter pylori virulence factor CAG-A in the Araucanía region to hopefully contribute to the design of a community-specific in vitro gastric diagnostic tool. Phew. We'll break it down. Has anybody heard of H. pylori before? Okay, so it is a bacteria which is present in at least half of the world's population in the stomach. For most people, it doesn't cause any symptoms, so that's probably, why we haven't heard of it so much. Rates do tend to fluctuate throughout the world. This map here shows rates, countries with higher rates of H. pylori in red and lower rates in yellow. But for some people, it can cause symptoms such as ulcers or atrophic gastritis, which is like degenerative inflammation, inflammation that breaks down part of the stomach lining. And it is a strong risk factor, among the strongest we know of, for someone to develop gastric or stomach cancer in the long run. So specifically for that last reason, it's really something that scientists and doctors alike are interested in studying. In Chile, in the Araucanía region specifically, it's been measured at about 41 to 73%, depending on the region studied or the time frame studied. In the Araucanía region specifically, my collaborators have found a 2.3 times higher risk of infection associated with patients with Mapuche ethnicity. So that is a significant increased risk and something to pay attention specifically here in the region. Circling back around to what I mentioned about stomach cancer, don't want to scare anyone. It's under 5% of people with H. pylori that infection, that way under 5% that will be estimated to ever develop stomach cancer. but stomach cancer is a significant issue for the world. In 2020, it was the fourth most common cause of cancer-related death, and about 769,000 people passed away due to stomach cancer in 2020. So this graph here on the right is also trying to show that rates of stomach cancer vary widely around the world. These are geographic regions organized in this paper with the different rates of stomach cancer. And you can see here that South America is the third highest region on this list, following only behind Eastern Asia and Eastern Europe. And gastric cancer or stomach cancer in Chile has been a significant problem. It has been found to be the most common cause of cancer-related death among males. So because H. pylori is wrapped up in as is a risk factor for gastric cancer, and gastric cancer is a problem here in Chile, we want to study this bacteria. But how do we do that? How do we study the bacteria? How do we find out which infections are most likely to lead to stomach cancer? One of the ways that we can do that is by looking at the proteins that the bacteria produces, or the proteins that it uses to interact with humans, with the stomach cells. One of the proteins that this bacteria produces is called cytotoxin-associated gene A, or CAG-A. And this is a protein that is known as a virulence factor, or it is involved in pathogen delivery. So basically, it's one of the proteins that helps H. pylori actually get inside human stomach cells. And it's not associated with every infection, but about 60%. And those infections that it is associated with tend to have more severe symptoms and a higher cancer risk. There are also different variations of this protein that have been identified worldwide. And that's kind of what this image is trying to show here, that there are more variations that aren't shown in this image, but one variation found in Eastern Asia and another associated with Western countries. So the goal of the project that I'm working on with my professors in the labs is to try to understand what this protein is like in infections found here in the region of La Araucanía and Temuco, and to be able to hopefully understand, is it something that's contributing to cancer risk? Is it something that, as I mentioned, to create a diagnostic tool, could we find something that could detect whether someone is more likely to develop gastric cancer or has developed gastric cancer earlier by using our understanding of this protein? And that's kind of where we're hoping to go. All right. Moving on, the next thing that I'd like, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about my research during the question portion of the talk as well. Moving on, I'd like to share a little bit more about the different programs that the Fulbright program offers. So we've seen this slide before. Again, just to emphasize that there are 11 different programs through Fulbright Chile. Again, my program that I'm a part of is for students to come for 9 months to Chile and do research with a university on a specific project. Students who are bachelor's or master's graduates or working towards their master's or doctorate. However, there are also 2 programs for folks to come to Chile who are established researchers, established professionals with experience. And this is the U.S. Scholar Program and the Fulbright Specialist Program. The U.S. Scholar Program allows scholars to come for 1 academic semester or 3 to 4 months and serve in the role of a visiting professor with a university or institution. And then the Fulbright Specialist Program allows researchers to come for a period of 2 to 6 weeks to be hosted by an institution and do specific research with a project. This is another program that Fulbright offers. It is not a program that is present here in Chile, but since it is a big part of their program, I wanted to highlight it. So it's the English Teaching Assistant, which is present in about 85 different countries around the world. And Students are placed in classrooms from the kindergarten through the university level to assist with English teaching. That's dependent on the country. And as well as assisting with English teaching, there are, of course, cultural ambassadors, like hopefully all Fulbright participants are. And this graph here on the right, I just wanted to highlight some of the countries where there are the most English teaching assistant scholarships sponsored, which would be Spain, Taiwan, Germany, and South Korea. And then the list goes on. All right. What about opportunities that the Fulbright program offers for Chilean citizens to come to the United States? There are 2 programs that they have for Chilean citizens to pursue a master's degree in the United States with funding for up to 2 years, one for any type of master's degree and another specifically for education professionals. Another program that they have that I know they're very proud of, they really highlighted to me, is this Programa de Beca Igualdad de Oportunidades. And this is for students who would be interested in pursuing a doctoral degree in the United States for up to 4 years. But it's specifically directed at applicants who may not have sufficient English language skills or may have a disadvantaged socioeconomic background in order to be able to apply to other Fulbright or UNID scholarships. So this program, in addition to sponsoring the doctorate in the United States, also sponsors students to get additional English language training in Chile and or in the United States. So I know they're really proud of this program. All right, and then last slide here. There are a few more that I didn't include on the slide. I thought this was enough, but there are programs. These programs here on the right, that side of the screen are for students who are involved in a doctoral program. So there's one, the Estudios Doctorales de Investigación, for students who are involved in a doctorate program and want to do research in the US for up to about a year, I believe. And then the Doctorado Faculty Development is for academics, Chilean academics who wish to return and get their doctorate, who have already been working in a field but wish to return and get their doctorate in their field in the United States. And then the programs over here on this side of the screen, the Hubert H. Humphrey program is for Chilean citizens to participate in a professional development program in the United States that does not lead to a degree. The Fulbright Chair program, this is a newer program. There's one at the University of California, Davis, and there are a couple others which are allowing for Chilean academics and researchers to serve as a visiting professor at that university for about 1 semester, 3 to 4 months. And then the Study of U.S. Institutes for Scholars program is more designed for more of a shorter stay for academics or experienced professionals to study university or institution of the United States and be able to improve the teaching about that university or institution back in Chile. So I'm happy to answer any questions about those programs, although I'd have to defer to their website if you are interested in getting much more information about any of those opportunities. And I would encourage you to check that out. Oh, I see a couple phones. Should I leave it up for a second? Fulbright Chile. It'll come up on Google. Okay. So next section of the program of my chat today, I'd like to share with you some about the education system in the United States and a couple of ways I've noticed that it's a little bit different from the education system here in Chile. So obligatory education in the United States is generally divided into 3 phases: elementary school, middle school, and high school. Elementary school is for students from ages 5 to 11, and so that consists of kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade. Middle school is from ages 11 to 14, for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and high school is 9th through 12th grade and age 14 to 18. For the most part, these tend to be organized in 3 separate schools for students, although in some private schools, middle school and high school may be together in one building, or all 3 levels may be together in one building, and that may also be true in smaller public schools as well. One thing I also wanted to note is that in the United States, second language education, for the most part, does not begin until middle school. Although there are some elementary schools which offer second language education, they're in the minority. For the most part, this doesn't start for students until they're at age 11 or older. All right, and mostly what I wanted to talk about is what happens after you graduate high school in the United States. You have several options. You can enter the workforce, any number of careers in the public sector, government, and the private sector. You could go to trade school, which tends to be a 1 to 2 year program to learn a trade such as electrical engineering, construction, or carpentry. Go to an associate's degree, which is a 2-year program. Some examples are hospitality management or law enforcement. So some associate's degree programs are designed to prepare a student for a specific profession, whereas others are more designed to provide a general education, such as that might lead someone into a bachelor's degree, which you could also enter directly out of high school. And a bachelor's degree is a 4-year program. That is the standard or the goal for all bachelor's degrees pretty much in the United States, is that they're 4 years. Due to circumstances or how a student may decide to take their classes, it may take them more than 4 years, but primarily it's 4. There are some that are specific, such as preparing students for nursing, but for the most part, they're a lot more general. So here are some other options of bachelor's degrees that are offered in the United States. As I mentioned earlier, my degree is in biology. I understand that the degree of biology doesn't exist here at the UFRO, right? Yeah, they're a little bit more specific, but you could also get a degree in history or English. And of course, all this mess of arrows that I drew is just trying to show that someone who decides to do something after high school could always change their mind and go back to school, or go from one school to another. It's not one and done. All right, and so talking a little bit about a bachelor's degree a bit more, what can you do after you get your bachelor's degree? You could again enter the workforce, education, government, the public sector, the private sector. You could get a master's degree, 1 to 2 years of specialization in research, a doctoral degree, which is generally required to become a university professor in the United States, or a professional degree. And some examples of professional degree would be a medical doctor, dentist, veterinarian, or lawyer. So one thing that I want to highlight as a difference that I've noticed here is that it's not possible for students to enter directly into a professional degree program out of high school. So for example, if I want to become a dentist, I can't enter into that program directly after my secondary education. I have to go first to get my bachelor's degree in some form, and then later on apply to dental school, which is most likely going to be at a different school than where I got my bachelor's degree. Again, more arrows just to show that after a bachelor's degree, you can go to the workforce and go back to school. One thing that's very common is for people to go back and get their master's degree while they're working. That's something that a lot of people do in the United States. All right. And so this is a lot of text on this slide, but what I wanted to show here is all the different things that myself and my classmates have been doing since graduating from Carleton in June, from the biology program specifically. So, and this is a group I'm gonna guess wrong. Under 50 students represented here. But so myself, I am doing the Fulbright, obviously, the International Exchange Program. I have a classmate who is doing the English Teaching Assistant Program, and another classmate who is volunteering with the Peace Corps. A classmate who went and decided to become a teacher. So starting off as an associate teacher, and then she's working her way up to earning her teaching certificate. I have classmates who went into research positions at labs or went to work as patient care assistant. So working in a hospital as like a nurse's assistant. I have classmates who went to get their master's degree in public health, or another one in bioinformatics or computational biology. A classmate going to a PhD program. I don't know for sure whether they're planning to become a university professor, but that would be an option to them. And then classmates who went directly into school to become a medical doctor or a dentist. And then I also want to note that I know that many of my classmates are also planning on later applying onto medical school or dental school. So they're kind of doing that arrow of swing. And then I just wanted to circle back around and kind of place some of the Fulbright programs in context of this educational system. So these are the programs that are offered for United States citizens. The U.S. student program that I'm a part of, as you can see, comes after a bachelor's degree, after a master's, or as part of earning a U.S. master's or doctoral. And then the other two programs that Fulbright offers for U.S. citizens are for people who have their doctoral degree and professional experience. I do believe, I'm not sure, but it may be possible to postulate to one of these programs without a doctoral degree, but professional experience is a requirement. And then there's a lot on this slide, but this is where the opportunities for Chilean citizens fall into this scheme. Those that are part of earning a master's degree, those that are part of earning a doctoral degree in the United States, and those that are open to people with professional experience there at the bottom as well. All right, and I'm happy to take questions on any of that during the question part as well. At this time, I'll now move on to my final section of the presentation, which is sharing some information about the regions of the United States. And I wonder if you all will humor me a little bit. Well, let's see, hopefully this will work. No. Not looking good, guys. All right, we're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. So if you guys wouldn't mind sharing with me some things that you think of, specifically places that you think of when you think of the United States. Just like shout them out. Yes. New York? Okay. Anyone else? Washington? Washington, D.C.? Yes. San Francisco? Okay. Anybody else? I think I heard Colorado there in the back of the room. Yeah, okay. Oh, awesome. One of my best friends is from Colorado. Anybody else, anything that they think of from, yes. McDonald's, yes. All right. Well, I'll talk about New York and California in this presentation for sure, but I also hope to be able to share some places and things about the United States that may be new and may be interesting for you. So here's that image of the United States again. And the United States is about 10,000 square kilometers worth of area in its land area and water area. So it's pretty big. Chile, by comparison, is about 750,000 square kilometers. I got one more slide. For comparison, that's about the size of these 4 states combined that are located in this box. Yeah, whoa. So I'm not trying to share this information as like any kind of competition or anything like that. I'm just trying to put some scale and show that I think you would all agree that it would be really hard to describe all of the places and all of the regional, cultural, and geographic diversity that's in Chile in about 20 to 30 minutes. But I'm going to try to share some information about regions, cultural, and geographic diversity about the United States in the next 20 to 30 minutes. So there's no way that I'm going to be able to cover everything. I'm just going to highlight a few things for you. And I want to share also before I get started, the reason that I decided to speak about the regions of the United States is that I've been asked if I think that the United States has a culture beyond like hot dogs, hamburgers, McDonald's, which is just great. I love to talk about it. I don't think that it's possible to characterize the entire United States in one culture. So that's why I think it's important to kind of break it down into regions and think about some different highlights of those specifically. So on the official level, the state is these outlines here, the 50 states of the United States are the governmental and administrative divisions of the United States. The regions, although this map is from the US Census Bureau that divides the United States into subregions, primarily the regions are thought of more fluidly as like a cultural division. And in fact, there can be a lot of debate over which region a specific state belongs to. Here's another map of the United States. This is not from any official source. This is just a map that somebody made that divides into some different regions. And as you can see on this map, for example, Minnesota and Wisconsin were both together in the Midwest, whereas in this one, they've been split up into 2 different regions. So it all depends on how you're thinking about it and who you're talking to. You can also think about the United States in kind of terms of more geographic regions that might not necessarily fall along state lines. And this is a map relating to that. But for today's presentation, I chose this map to kind of focus on. So with 5 different regions, the West, Midwest, Southwest, Southeast, and Northeast. I thought 5 regions would be enough to try to get through. So does anybody know where this is? LA? Los Angeles, California? I think I heard. Yes. So this is a picture of some pictures from Hollywood, California, or Los Angeles, California, which is one of the things that the western region of the United States is known for. So Hollywood is somewhere around here. Other things that this region of the United States is known for would be Las Vegas, which is located in Nevada. That's the top image. That's a really big tourist destination. It's known for having a lot of casinos and entertainment venues. And Seattle, Washington is another city. San Francisco is also in this region, Portland, Oregon, but Seattle, Washington, I just chose to put a picture of here. And to circle back to Hollywood, sure, a lot of you may have heard of it, but it's known as a central place for the film industry and entertainment industry. Some interesting geographical features of this region. I've got a picture of the Rocky Mountains on the top there, which go through several states. Yellowstone National Park, which is primarily in Wyoming. Yosemite National Park on the top, which is in California. The Pacific Ocean, obviously, is a big border there. And so that looks a lot different depending on which part of it you're looking at. This is a picture from the Oregon coast, so more towards the northern border. And volcanoes. The West is the region of the United States with the most volcanoes. Obviously, Hawaii, the Hawaiian Islands are volcanic and continue to have active volcanoes. But Yellowstone National Park, that geyser that I showed on the previous slide, is due to the presence of a volcano. Some food that the western region of the United States is known for are avocados. A lot of avocados are grown in California. Potatoes, a lot of potatoes are grown in Idaho. And coffee, although coffee is not grown specifically in Washington State, Washington State is known for coffee. That's where several big coffee brands such as Starbucks originally got their start, and now today there are still a lot of coffee culture and coffee shops in that region. Some cultural things that you might think of when you think of the western region of the United States are outdoorsy. So it is the region with the most national parks in the United States, and so those sites that the federal government has determined are worth preserving in that way. And so a lot of folks like to get out and enjoy those national parks, as well as opportunities. So historically, American settler colonialism moved from the east to the west. So the west was kind of seen as like a land of opportunity. And even now today, that kind of still persists. If you're interested in going into the entertainment industry, Los Angeles is seen as the place to go and do that. On the other hand, San Francisco or Silicon Valley is a place that's seen to go if you're interested in getting into the tech industry. So it's a place where there's a lot of opportunities to be seen. All right, got another image. Anybody care to describe this image or take a guess at where I'm? Texas? Yes, yes. Cowboys and cattle ranching are one of the things that the Southwest region of the United States is known for, both historically and in the present day culturally as well. Some other things that this region of the United States is known for is hot weather. So this is from Phoenix, Arizona, considered to be one of the hottest cities in the United States. And this is a graph of climate averages by month. So the red being like the hottest temperature of the day, the blue being the coldest temperature of the day, and the brown being the average temperature. And so you can see that especially during the months of June, July, and August, it gets pretty hot there. And unfortunately, climate change is exacerbating that. So here's a picture as well of Phoenix, Arizona, and then on the bottom, Dallas, Texas. Those are two big cities from that region. American football is also something that is pretty big in the South as well. Some interesting geographic regions, Grand Canyon National Park, which is on the top there, and it's known for having a lot of desert regions, which can be beautiful. As far as food, two things that really stand out to me when I think about the Southwest are barbecue and Mexican influence. So due to the border shared with Mexico and a lot of immigration on both sides and cultural exchange, there's a lot of food with Mexican influence in the Southwest. Some cultural considerations that you might think of when you think of the Southwest may be a strong sense of patriotism or pride in the United States, as well as kind of an independent identity. And that is maybe thought of more specifically with Texas and some historical events there. But that continues on to this day. All right. Anybody know this image or where it is? Disney. Yeah, Disney World. Anybody know where Disney World is in the United States? Yeah, Orlando, Florida. There's also Disneyland in California, but Disney World is the big one, right? in Orlando, Florida. And it's one of the things that the Southeast is known for. The Southeast is also known, New Orleans is a famous city in this region, which is in Louisiana. It's also known for having hot weather. American football, like I said, for the Southwest is also really, really big in the Southeast. This image here is of some of the different colleges that American football, that have American football programs in the Southeast, and it's thought to be, for a lot of people, it's like a real source of pride and identity, their college American football team. Although they don't call it American football, they just call it football. Some other things that it's known for is Nashville and country music. Nashville is where a really big place for country music. It has Country Music Hall of Fame, a lot of concert venues. It's kind of like the place to go if you want to get into country music or hear country music. But throughout the region, it's a big influence. And Washington, D.C., as you mentioned, is located in this region as well. It's not part of any state. It's actually, Washington, D.C. is actually its own area of land on the border of Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. Some interesting geographical features. We've got the Blue Ridge Mountains there. The Florida Keys are home to Everglades National Park, so way down at the southernmost part of Florida. And then a bayou, which is a type of wetland common along the Gulf of Mexico, or that water border to the south. Some food that this region is known for, also barbecue, seafood, especially along that border with the Gulf of Mexico, and grits on the bottom, which is a type of corn porridge traditional to the Southeast region, and not so common, from what I understand, in many other regions of the United States. Some cultural considerations for this region. It's known for a lot of friendliness and a lot of emphasis on family values, the importance on the family unit. All right. Next up, New York. Yes, so two of the things that New York is most known for, Times Square and the Statue of Liberty. New York is the biggest city in the United States by far. Almost 9 million people live there. Los Angeles would be the next biggest city with almost 4 million people living there, if I'm not mistaken. But so New York would be the biggest. And it's a cultural and commercial center of importance for the region and the country. Some other things that this region of the United States is known for is New England, the New England Fall. I don't really know where this got its start, but there's kind of this idea of like the buildings and towns that were originally set up by the British colonies being associated with the fall. It does look beautiful from that picture, but it's kind of a thing. Cold and snow is definitely a part of life in this region. Being up north further from the equator, it gets colder, especially around the Great Lakes. There's a lot of snow. And the Ivy League colleges are all located in this region. And those are considered to be the most prestigious colleges in the United States. So that's something that people do think of when they think of this region as well. Geography, the Appalachian Mountains, Niagara Falls, which is on the border of New York and Canada, and Acadia National Park, which is in Maine. Those are a couple interesting things. As far as food, maple syrup is a really big deal, especially in Vermont. That's where a lot is produced. Maine is really known for lobsters, having a lot of lobster fisheries. And baked beans are something that's traditional since the colonial times. Some things that to think about, as I've kind of mentioned a couple of times, the British colonial history is very salient very present for a lot of people there. Not everyone, of course, and opinions are, of course, mixed about that. This region is thought of having a lot of white-collar jobs. And what I mean by that is jobs such as in New York in the finance industry, in finance, and as well as having all of those universities, it's thought to be a place with a lot of education. Life there can be sometimes thought of as being faster paced than in other regions of the United States, and some may characterize it as being a little bit more individualistic or focused on individual ambitions than in other areas of the United States. All right, and last but not least, does anybody know this image or where it's from? I heard it in the back there. Wizard of Oz. Yeah. So Wizard of Oz is a pretty well-known American story. It was originally a book, then a movie, and it's been adapted to a lot of plays and musicals. The Wicked musical as well comes from the same story. But basically the story is about Dorothy, who is a farm girl on the plains of Kansas, who gets swept away in a tornado to a magical world. And I wanted to highlight that for the Midwest because I think it kind of shows some of the things that the Midwest region is typically known for: farming, plains, and tornadoes. However, that's not consistent through all regions, all the different parts of the United States, or excuse me. That's not to say that all parts of the Midwest are plains and tornadoes, but it is something that is known for. It's also known for cold and snow. So this is another graph like the one I showed before of the temperatures. This one's for Minneapolis-St. Paul region, or the area where I was just prior to moving here. And as you can see, though it does get warm, it does get cold, especially in the months of November, December, and January. Chicago would be the biggest region, or excuse me, the biggest city of the region. And another thing that I wanted to mention is that this idea of flyover country, which is what I'm trying to show with this image here. So sometimes I think when people think about the United States, we think about those areas that are in green in this image, like the West Coast with California, the East Coast with New York, Disney World would be included there in Florida, and then everything else in the middle is kind of flyover country. Like there's not much to see there. It's all the same. Really, it's not. There's a lot to see there. Especially being from Minnesota and Wisconsin, that's something that I like to share with people. Another thing that the Midwest is known for is the Minnesota State Fair. So this is an event that happens every year in the Minneapolis area, although there are lots of state fairs and county fairs, which originated from the idea of people getting together to show off their livestock, plants, and produce, and baked goods, and things like that. But then it's kind of evolved now to be kind of a celebration, not only of farming life, but also cultural life and lots of other things. So it's known to be a place where there's a lot of crazy food being sold, specifically fried food. The idea at one of the jokes of the Minnesota State Fair is that you bring them anything and they'll fry it, even like a stick of butter. But there's also rides, entertainment, lots to do there, and it's a very popular. People come from not necessarily all over the U.S., but from around to go to this event. Some geographical things that the Midwest is known for, in addition to the plains that I mentioned earlier, would be the boundary waters. So this is from the protected area in the northern part of Minnesota on the border with Canada, where there's a lot of lakes and forests protected for canoeing, fishing, and camping. The Great Lakes, shown here, and then the Badlands National Park is located in South Dakota. Some food that the Midwest is known for is corn. A lot of corn is, grown in the Midwest. Cheese, Wisconsin, the state where I grew up, is known for being the biggest producer of cheese. I'm not sure whether that's still true anymore, but it used to be. And the Chicago hot dog. And then some cultural considerations would be this idea of Midwestern nice, that people in the Midwest are really nice, and blue-collar jobs. Although this is kind of a stereotype, it is also partially true that it is also true that there is a lot of industries such as farming and mining in this area of the United States. All right, so that's all the content that I have for you today. I was hoping that this would work again, but maybe if anyone would be willing to share something that they learned about today. Yes.
It was so interesting to know each part of the United States, because sometimes we have a general knowledge about the country and know like details, and well, listening from you and your experience, it was good to know. So it was interesting.
Great. All right, I won't pick on anyone. I want to say thank you. Thank you to you all for coming to the presentation today. Thank you, as I said, to those who made it possible to set up this presentation. Thank you to the Fulbright program and to my collaborators for sponsoring my research project and supporting me there, and my family and friends as well for the support. Here are some references which I used. And at this time, I'd like to take any questions or other comments.
About your research
Mm-hmm.
related to the Helicobacter
Yes,
pylori, because you mentioned that in this region
yes.
the percentage is high, mainly related to Mapuche ethnicity. So what can you tell us about that? Because that is interesting. Because
Yes. Yes. It is. I do want to say that Helicobacter pylori is present in the region among people who do identify and do not identify as Mapuche ethnicity, but in that study they did find that it was a higher risk, and that may be associated to how the bacteria is spread, which tends to be within a community, within a family, and it may also be associated with socioeconomic conditions as well. Moving forward, it is something that I think is good to be aware of, to continue to understand why that higher rate of infection may be, and to continue to combat it.
So it's not a genetic condition.
No, it is not a genetic condition. It is a bacteria which is believed to be acquired either by the oral transmission route or the fecal oral transmission route, and tends to be, as I said, transmitted within families. Yes, good question. Yes.
Well, actually, I have yes, I have a bacteria.
Yes.
When I got my disease, because I have a celiac disease, and the doctor told me that the food that I eat for a long time or a long period of time, you have like it influenced me to maybe like kind of give like food to the bacteria to increase their like the power, because you have a few like medicine that can help you to maybe like eliminate the bacteria, but sometimes it is like strong, like
Resistant,
yeah,
yes.
and persistent for a long time. So my question is, Iris, is this related to food? Because I wasn't sure about my doctor told me.
Yeah.
So That's my question.
That is a great question. So for those on Zoom, the question was, is Helicobacter pylori related to food intake? I don't know the answer. I have not heard that before. That doesn't mean it's not true. I would have to look into it more to be able to answer that. Yeah, no, great question. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, Javi.
What is your favorite place in the United States?
Oh, okay, great question. So for those on Zoom, the question was, what is my favorite place in the United States? Or my region of the Midwest? Okay. I would have to say that I really love the bluffs of La Crosse, my hometown where I grew up. So the bluffs, the hills there, which are not too dissimilar from the Cerro Nielo here, although they are distinct. I have a lot of really fond memories of hiking there and walking my dog there. So, it's a really great place. Any other questions or comments? Oh, yes, have there been any? No? Well, I take that to mean that either I explained everything super great or yeah, no. I know it's hard in another language. That's been my everyday. Here in English, you can now hear me talk a lot faster and a lot more fluidly than I have been talking.
The survey? The survey?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sophie, for your excellent presentation. Now, because your opinion about this activity is very important to us, we ask you to help us improve the organization of future talks, completing the survey in the link provided. I don't know where it's a link, but it Okay, so we want to invite you to participate in the following presentation. Participation and interest. See you soon.